Diaspora UA welcomes you on our channel. Today we have our guest, retired US Navy Captain Yuri Tabach. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for inviting me, Bogdan. Thank you for inviting for Diaspora UA.
As we know, you are in Ukraine right now with a humanitarian mission. Can you share your thoughts about the situation right now in Ukraine?
The situation in Ukraine is very difficult. Ukrainian forces are fighting way overwhelming and more powerful force than they are, but they're doing it very bravely. I was just visiting one of the military bases in Ukraine. Their motivation is very high, but they're equipped with very old military equipment and shortages of everything from uniforms and body armor to the weapons. Some of the weapons go back to World War I and World War II, the machine guns. So they're all aware of what's going on, but they know that sooner or later they have to push the enemy out of their country. However, the Lend-Lease that that they were all hoping for, that was going to come soon, still has not arrived. There's still very little, nickel and diming them. They're getting a little bit of something here and there, but 100 howitzers and 4 high mobility rocket launchers, HIMARS, high mobility artillery rockets. So it's HIMARS that rocket artillery but it's just 4 vehicles, which is not enough. They promised another.
Unbelievable.
But they need hundreds of those things, tanks, offensive weaponry, as well as all the other equipment that they need. Definitely the Russians have the superiority in the air, and the Russians are conducting a terror war. They're bombarding shopping centers, killing a lot of people. They're bombarding kindergartens. They just attacked and bombarded with the missiles summer camp for the kids, and there were casualties. And a lot of civilians, a lot of innocent people are dying because Russians are just firing their Soviet missiles that look like Hamas firing on Israel, just at random. So they are waiting for the reinforcement in the air and the air defenses and the offensive weaponry, which is Lend-Lease supposed to provide, but it is already 2 months since the Lend-Lease has been signed, but no weapons on Lend-Lease has arrived.
And Lend-Lease, and also 40 billion was approved by the US Congress for support Ukrainian army, and only 660 million was sent. That's about only 2% of the approved financial and military help. How come Ukraine is not getting this money? It's already approved, and now Ukrainian army basically losing the battle just because of this severe delay.
The Ukrainian army is definitely bleeding. They're losing their best of the best in the everyday fights. In the offensive, Russians have more artillery pieces, like 40 times more.
40 times.
Everything else, well, I'm not sure, but it's in 10, 20, and everything else is 10 times more than what Ukrainians have. Tanks, artillery, definitely air power, missiles, and so on. The 40 billion that you're talking about, originally it was 34 billion, which was proposed by President Biden, but did not include any of the military aid in it. It was like to support refugees, support support other countries and so forth. And then Republicans voted it down. So they included 6 6 billion more, which was of the direct military aid. Out of those 6 billion, only 660 million has been spent so far for the weaponry. Just to compare it, to put it in comparison, when we had our military, our armed forces in Afghanistan, and there was an Afghani army, and they were fighting much weaker forces, Taliban, who's just armed with AK-47s by men who cannot read or write. We were giving, for 20 years, we were giving $300 million a day, $300 million. And here is $600 million. So it's really only 2 days of fighting in Afghanistan we have given to Ukraine that fights way bigger force, the second largest army in the world, with tanks, artillery, airplanes, submarines. They've been just fired by the submarines, the missiles from the submarines and from the airplanes in the Caspian Sea, strategic airplanes, the Bears, fired on Ukraine, on the civilian targets, housing, I said, summer camps, kindergartens, and they are just wiping the cities, large cities. They're just like Mariupol. They're wiping it off the face of the earth. And now Kharkov, another city that's just being bombarded, just like in World War II, carpet bombing with civilians there, created a huge refugee problem in Ukraine. Over 10 million people in Ukraine have been removed from their homes. So yeah, and the world. I mean, I think that my personal opinion is that Putin is fighting the whole world. Unfortunately, only Ukraine fights for the entire world. It's a World War III, and as long as we're showing weakness, Putin is eating it up. We're still paying him $1 billion a day for oil and gas, and he finances this war that way, and he doesn't care because we're all showing cowardness in front of that KGB thug instead of just putting him in his own place. And the only world leader that's really speaking out or taking a stand is Boris Johnson of Great Britain. The rest of the world leaders are very, very weak. I mean, in Poland and Baltic states, but the rest are trying to appease this modern day Hitler.
How we can change situation? Because President Biden blaming all this thing that happened, high gas prices, inflation, all this disaster, blaming because of war, and only he sent only 2% of already approved aid and no Lend-Lease. So how we can change to reach?
Russia, there are Ukrainian and Russian-speaking organizations, associations that need to lobby stronger and be more forceful with our elected representatives and tell them that, we're not going to vote for them in November, be it Democrats, be it Republicans. If they're not going to support Ukraine today, right now, if it's only going to be pacifying by words and papers and thesis and TV talk shows and no weapons, we need to vote these people out. And they need to know about it now so they can correct it before the November comes. And we have to be very loud about it. The Ukrainian community, Jewish community, any American, Russian-speaking community, Georgian communities, Uzbek communities, Kazakh communities, all those communities in the United States need to lobby, need to organize, because it's not Ukraine, it's all of us. It's all of us.
Yes, and
the whole world is in danger, and we need to recognize that. The American people need to recognize that. Unfortunately, our today's administration is very weak, and our mass media is very corrupt in the sense that they're pushing their agenda, still fighting Trump. I mean, that's probably more to them. Trump is still the biggest danger, not Putin. There's still, the abortion is more of an important issue than World War III or a nuclear war. Whether it's going to be decided on a federal or on a state level. Global warming is more important, and so on and so forth, that they're trying to distract the attention from massive genocidal killing that is going on right now in the world, and it is going on in Ukraine.
Yes, and we calling our friend in Ukraine, and who basically saying the same thing as you saw. They don't have ammunition, they don't have weapons, and they say even a minute of delay, that's a child's life of civilians who are targeted and not protected, only because some politician did not deliver what they promised. All this military help.
Absolutely, and it's taking way too long, and it's clearly done for political ambitions of the European elites and the United States administration today's administration, and it's criminal. It's a treacherous. It's a betrayal. It's a betrayal of what was promised by President Biden during his election campaign, that Putin is not going to last much longer when he's in power, that there are going to be sanctions from hell, and so forth and so forth. But in a sense, we got the reverse. We got the opposite. Putin got the green light, by pulling our embassy out of here, by saying if the incursion is significant, if the incursion is not significant, by saying that we will not commit our troops to it. That was taken off the table right away. We never did. Taking our warships out of the Black Sea, and so forth and so forth. Giving, I'm comparing it to when Hitler got the green light to kill the Jews, when the St. Louis, that had 1,000 Jews on board from Germany, came to the United States. President Roosevelt did not accept them and did not allow Batista in Cuba to take them in. And they were sent back. And that's when Hitler said, okay, nobody wants them, I can kill them. And everybody kept saying, okay, well, it's only German Jews, it's only German gays, it's only German people that are mentally ill. And so it's not going to affect us. Well, it affects all of us. And today, the same thing is being done to Ukraine. We're allowed Putin to do this to Chechen people originally, then to the Georgians, and then to Ukrainians, and then to Ukrainians again. And sending them with a red reset button did not help, to encourage him that he can get away with anything, because he's going to threaten and blackmail us with the nuclear weapons. We cannot live like this. We cannot share that planet with somebody who threatens us with a nuclear weapon and kills innocent people indiscriminately in the middle of Europe. That's bizarre.
Yeah, and
the world has to understand.
I think that's just excuse, because, for example, Boris Johnson, he said if Russia gonna use nuclear weapons, he will Britain will leave the rights to. Yes.
And the China kind of gave that nod to, and many other countries, they're cowardness, and and we can see that Boris Johnson is paying the price for it, because the Davos gang with the socialist justice and equality, trying to build a new Soviet Union in Europe, or build in the world, or one big happy China for us, are not happy with Boris Johnson, and his fate is kind of like Trump's. He's not in step with the rest of the elites, all the elites, and they're afraid that once Ukraine wins, the center of gravity will change from France, Germany, and old Europe to New Europe, Poland, Ukraine, Baltic states, Great Britain maybe might join it. And they don't want that. Their Davos plan needs to work, where everybody's going to be equal, where everybody's going to be the same. And they're selling it as a social justice agenda, which those of us who lived in the Soviet utopia know very well how it all ends up. It ends up with the idea that everybody's going to be equal and happy, and everybody is going to be justice for all. but it ends up in a gulag and the firing squads and the NKVD and Gestapo. So we all know how it ends. So people like Boris Johnson, President Trump, President Reagan, Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister Churchill, they never went for it. They never believed that. Unfortunately, today we only have one leader so far, as Boris Johnson, that follows that. And, of course, President Zelensky, who took a stand and is not giving up and keeps on fighting.
Yes, and also country like Poland and other small country in Europe, a few others, they help in Ukraine, but still they can't openly, step up and protect Ukraine, because they depend also from NATO and other country.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Poland wanted to give MiGs at the beginning of the war to Ukrainians, so they would have some air coverage. But the Pentagon and our administration did not allow them to do that. Same thing with air defenses and so forth. So for now, Ukrainians got some of the howitzers, some of those high mobility rocket launchers, artillery, 4 of them. And
just 4. That's.
But there's other countries like Great Britain is giving, and Denmark, and Sweden, but it's not enough. The only country that has enough weapons to provide to Ukraine so it can stand up to the Russian invaders is the United States. Everybody helps. It does help the Ukraine, and this is why Ukraine is still fighting force, but it's not enough.
And it's been 5th month already of this war, and Russia has more weapons, more manpower, and help was delayed. It was already approved, signed, everything. So everybody who see and hear us, please share this information. We should call senators, call White House, and try to change something, because most Americans think Ukraine getting this help. We don't know.
Those who think that Putin or his inner circle will stop at Ukraine are fools. They have learned nothing from history. They have learned nothing about the KGB, and they have learned nothing from the wars that just fed on themselves. Putin is not going to stop until we stop him and destroy him and refuse to live with the nuclear Russia and share this planet with them. Things must change now, or it will lead to disaster. And people need to realize that, and our elites have to realize that, and our elected officials must realize that.
Definitely. I hope they will, and I hope we can change something with all our videos, information, and hopefully they will listen our opinion and news. Thank you so much for all you do for Ukraine, and thank you for your time sharing this important information. You watched Diaspora U8, Богдан Боровець, and U.S. retired Navy Captain Gary Tabach. Thank you.
Glory to Ukraine.